I hope the audio is okay. I ended it too soon, but I just wanted to add that, just to give a bit of framework of what hidden murder means or what it means to actually lose one's puissance d'agir. Again, in that video, it's more accurate, but essentially the idea is that for you to get opacity in life, you find joy, and the more joy you have, the more opaque your existence is. And when you find yourself in front of objects or things that cause or causes that are accompanied with sadness, that's when you lose opacity. So what one of my professors said about like how important it is for society or the government to create a world that its citizens will be happy is the idea that a person is sorry, I'm trying to formulate this. A happy society is designed in a way that each person leaves their house and they're not confronted with sadness, as in things that make it really difficult to continue conserving their being. So this is what it means when the cause comes from the outside, because our nature, according to Spinoza at least, is to find joy, is to conserve their existence. So the only logical reason why a person would decide to leave is not so much that they decided to find sadness or they decided to not exist, but that their power to act, their will to act, their puissance d'agir is reduced by so much sadness from the outside. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Hi, today we'll be talking about suicide. I wish I could simply just say it in English, but I'm trying to confuse any scanning thing. It is obviously educational, but from now onwards, we're going to talk about suicide in terms of hidden murder. So I was thinking of making this into a members only video just because of the topic, and with YouTube, you don't know what triggers the algorithm or people in general. But there was a camarade at school, who decided to leave, permanently. So I'm sorry for the euphemism, but again, this is the internet. I would not speak like this if I wasn't recording this. But yeah, I just thought that it was important to mention, and I would just like to share this quote from Spinoza's Ethics. So this is from Ethics 4, Proposition 20, Scoli. So let us just begin. Donc personne, sauf quand il est vaincu par des forces extérieures et contraire à sa nature, ne néglige de rechercher son utile propre et de conserver son être. So therefore no one, except when he is vanquished or defeated by exterior forces, contrary forces to his nature, does not neglect to search for his own utility and to conserve his being. Personne, dis-je, nobody, I say, par une nécessité de sa nature et son être contraint par des causes extérieures, ne refuse des aliments ou ne se suicide, ce qui peut avoir lieu de bien des façons. So no one, as I say, by the necessity of his nature and without being constrained to exterior causes, will refuse food or will se suicide. That can happen in many ways. Quelqu'un, en effet, se tue sous la contrainte d'un autre qui lui tord la main, lequel par hasard tenait une épée et le force à diriger cette épée contre son cœur. A person, in effect, ends themselves under the constraint of another that twists his arm, by which happens to hold a sword, and forces this person to aim or to dirige, to direct this sword against his heart. Ou bien parce que sur un ordre du tyran, il est obligé, comme Sénèque, de s'ouvrir les veines. Okay, or because under the order of a tyrant, he's obligated, like Seneca, to open his veins. C'est-à-dire qu'il désire éviter par un moindre mal un mal plus grand. That is to say that he decides to avoid by a smaller bad a bigger bad. This goes back to Aristotle from Ethics when we talk about volontaire, like what is choice, and he has very strict delineations of what you'd consider as choice. Something is not voluntary if it's something that an ordinary person cannot bear. The idea of like a bigger bad is still kind of like questionable whether or not it's voluntary. But in this case, what Spinoza is trying to say is that it is never, like, it is against one's nature to do this. It is always from an exterior force. And that's why I call this hidden murder. Murder as in from someone else who harms someone else. Ou enfin parce que des causes extérieures cachées disposent l'imagination et l'affectent les corps de façon que celui-ci revêt une nouvelle nature contraire à la précédente et donc l'idée ne peut se trouver dans l'âme. Or in the end, because these exterior hidden causes puts into disposition the imagination and affects the body in such a way that they adorn a new nature, contrary to the one before, which is the nature propre, the own nature of the person, which, as he says, it is contradictory to not want to conserve one's being, and which this idea that, you know, affects the body to act in this different nature is actually not found in his soul. Mais qu'un homme, par la nécessité de sa nature, s'efforce de ne pas exister ou de se transformer en une autre forme. But that man, by the necessity of his nature, forces to not exist or to transform into another form. So transform yourself into another form is basically a cadaver. So celui est aussi impossible que la production de quelque chose à partir de rien, comme chacun peut le voir en réfléchissant un peu. Which this is also impossible, that it is produced out of nothing, as one can see in thinking a little bit. So that basically just says that anything that's the necessity of one's nature, it would never happen out of nothing. It has to be an introduction from the outside. So yeah, I don't know who needs to hear this or who might want to hear this, or if anyone would like to hear this, but I would like someone to hear this because I found it helpful when we were given the space to talk about the situation. And yeah, maybe this will give you the occasion to talk about it with someone else as well. Because for the most part, I would like to believe that we remember that, and I also remind myself that heart moments are never permanent. My professor said that if anyone wants to be reminded of contingency, just torture them. This is how philosophers get by. But take care of one another, and yeah, I'm gonna go eat now. All right, have a great day.